Welcome back to Murder with the Missus. I'm Darren.
And I'm Amy, and today we're going to tell you about Maura Murray.
Don't forget to smash that like button. Check out the description for the links of all of our podcast platforms, Cash App, and Buy Me a Coffee. Like, share, subscribe, and don't forget to tell your friends. Do not.
Every
Forget
time.
to tell your friends. We're always looking for new subscribers, so
Always.
let's tell your friends and let's get them in here. Let
Yeah.
them enjoy what you enjoy.
Yeah. I mean, your friends, you obviously like the same things.
Yeah. I mean, unless you just don't like your friends at all,
And then, well,
you know.
reevaluate.
All right. Then just share it to them anonymously. But
Sneak it in.
all right.
Now, you would be hard-pressed, and I mean hard-pressed, to find a true crimer out in the world who does not know this name. Maybe some of the younger ones might not know it. Darren probably doesn't know it because he doesn't know true crime.
I don't listen to them.
But the disappearance of Maura Murray has baffled people for years. She disappeared just 5 days after Facebook launched, so the case is widely referred to as the first crime mystery of the social media age, because her family was one of the first to be able to use the platform to spread the word about her case, to get tips, and to have interactions with the masses. It was a game changer and a far cry from what we're used to today, because you can get this information like that today. Now, while her case remains unsolved to this day, there was recently an update that has thrust this back onto the scene. And I knew we would cover it one day, and it looks like today's going to be that day. This happened in 2004, so it has been 21 years. It has been covered and covered. Believe it or not, there's still information that comes out because it's still like the police still haven't released all the things. There's still things that has not been released to the public in this case. And people have broken this thing down in just about every way you can do it. So I'll be able to give you the information. We'll talk about the suspects and the speculations and then what's new. Just keep in mind that this, like I said, is open. No arrests have been made in this case. We're not accusing anyone in this case. We're just talking about everything that's come out over the years.
And as always, everyone is innocent until proven guilty.
Very true. Yes. Now, Maura was born in 1982 in Hanson, Massachusetts. She was the fourth of 5 kids, so she was part of a pretty good-sized Irish Catholic family. Her parents would get divorced when she was only 6 years old, and while she stayed mostly with her mom, she was still really close to her dad, Fred. In high school, she excelled. She was super motivated, both in class and on the track. She also got almost a perfect SAT score. She was an all-state runner on the track team. And she was that person who actually wrote handwritten thank you notes when you did something nice for her or gave her something. So she was pretty well-rounded. Her sister thought that as disciplined as she was in both sports and academics, that she would really like to go to West Point where her sister was going. So after graduating high school, that's where she went to study chemical engineering. But it wasn't quite her cup of tea. I'm not sure if it was what she was studying or the school itself. But after her freshman year, she would end up leaving and going to the University of Massachusetts, or UMass, to study nursing. So big difference. And you may hear, when you research this case, that she stole $5 worth of makeup and got kicked out of West Point for violating the honor code. But her sister Julie took to TikTok to say that that's not what happened. She did get in trouble for taking some makeup, but she left West Point before she was punished. So she left on her own. And Julie doesn't believe that the punishment would have went so far as to completely kick her out of the school anyways.
Well, I mean, I would think that a place like West Point would have strict punishments.
Right. I mean, it's military based.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what they do. But according to Julie, there was a lot of people that did worse things and got lower punishments than being kicked out. So she doesn't believe that it would have ended in expulsion. Now, UMass was a much better fit for Maura. She was on the dean's list and she was on the track team. She liked doing her rotations at the hospital, and she was in a long distance relationship with a man named Bill, who was at Fort Sill here in Oklahoma. She was planning on spending the summer actually working at a hospital in Oklahoma so that she could be closer to him. And yes, they did meet at West Point. But at this time that she's at UMass, she's working 2 part-time jobs. One was at an art gallery and one was with campus security, which I thought was kind of ironic because in November of 2003, she got in trouble for using a stolen credit card to buy food from some local restaurants. Now, I believe she had another person's credit card number, so she would actually just order the food over the phone. And she was set to have those charges for that dismissed if she was able to show that she had good behavior for 3 months, right? So she was in trouble for it, but it wasn't like, again, not expulsion worthy or anything like that. So now we're getting close to the time of her disappearance. On February 5th of 2004, she was working at the Melville dorm campus security desk. At around 10:20 p.m., she was chatting with her sister Kathleen, who had just got out of treatment for alcohol use. Kathleen was also having relationship issues at the time, so they were talking about all of that. So much.
I mean, damn, everything all at once, huh?
All at once. And that's usually how it goes when it rains, it pours.
Yeah.
It was about 3 hours later, according to her supervisor, that Maura was crying. And all she could get out was, my sister. So maybe she was crying in sympathy for her sister, because Kathleen would later say that they didn't talk about anything that she believed would have made Maura cry. So this was all weird to her. Saying, we didn't really talk about much. I've been fighting with my fiance and we talked about that, but I don't know why she would be upset about that. So it's like she was emotional, but they couldn't figure out why she was so emotional. Maura drove a 1996 black Saturn that was down a cylinder and it was smoking like a coal train. So on Saturday, the 7th, her dad took her, Fred, he took her to spend the day looking at cars. Now, she did talk to Julie that day on the phone, and Julie said that Maura had been making fun of Fred a little bit, which was status quo. They did that all the time. So Maura was in a pretty good mood. Fred and Maura had dinner, and then Fred went to his hotel for the night. He let Maura use his car for the rest of the night since he wasn't going to be using it. And she ended up at a party that night and had a little bit too much to drink. At 2:30 a.m., she decided she was going to take the car back to Fred at the hotel instead of just going back to her dorm. And she didn't quite make it to that hotel. She ended up crashing it into a guardrail, doing thousands of dollars in damage to the car. But she didn't get arrested. So she's like one of the luckiest people. The insurance company, also the next day they found out was going to go ahead and cover the damage. So Fred headed out the next day. He had some work to do in Connecticut, so he just took off. Yeah.
So how to get there?
He had to rent a car to get there because he had to leave his car. It couldn't go. Now at about 11:30 that night, he called Maura to remind her to go to the DMV the next day to get accident report forms that they needed to fill out for the insurance. And she was going to call him at around 8 p.m. on Monday to go over the forms and fill them out. Shortly after midnight, she was on MapQuest looking up directions to the Berkshires and Burlington, Vermont. So now we're into Monday the 9th. Shortly before 1 p.m., she called a resort called The Seasons in Bartlett, New Hampshire. Now, this isn't a hotel, so you can't just call and rent a room, which is kind of what she was trying to do. They had to tell her that, to reserve a condo unit there, you had to do that well in advance. You couldn't just call and be like, what do you got going today? So she called a hotel in the area, but she couldn't rent a room there either. Now at 1 p.m., she emailed her boyfriend, Billy. I love you more, stud. I got your messages, but honestly, I didn't feel like talking to much of anyone. I promise to call today, though. Love you, Maura. At 1:24, she emailed her professors that she would be out of class for the next couple of days due to a death in the family. Now, her family would later confirm that there was no death in the family, so this was a lie, and nobody knows why. At 2:05 p.m., she called a hotel line in Stowe, Vermont. It wasn't working at the time to actually make a reservation, so she basically listened to a pre-recorded message for about 5 minutes, just about where it was and what they do there. Then at 2:18, she called Billy's cell and left him a voicemail. She packed her car with some clothes, toiletries, her school books, a cell phone charger, and her birth control pills. So
she took her school books.
Right. Right.
It doesn't sound like she was trying to get away for, a little fun.
Right. Why would you take your school books? So she's leaving school, but she's obviously planning on coming back because she's going to be getting her work done while she's out. So keep that in mind. Because I'd leave my school books behind if I was going to have fun.
Yeah.
Unless school is her idea of fun. I don't know. The weird thing that they would find out later is that she also packed up her apartment into boxes. even the art and decorations off the walls. But the pictures I saw, there was still like a stuffed monkey hanging from a pipe that came out of the ceiling. Other than that, pretty much everything else was packed into boxes and stacked up. So weird, right? At approximately 3:30, she left campus. 10 minutes later, she is on video at an ATM where she withdrew $280 from her bank account. Now, that only left about $16 in the account. Her sister has since said that they believe that she did that to leave the account open. But when I heard that, I instantly went to her not being able to empty it because ATMs only have $20 bills. So you can only withdraw money in $20 increments. So she couldn't have taken that last $16 out at the ATM.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's what I immediately thought. And police didn't release that footage of her at the ATM to the public for about 10 years, which everyone thought was odd because it didn't really show anything. Like, it's not like it was a top secret thing. It shows that she's alone by all accounts. She doesn't look like she's in distress. Her hair is pulled back and she's wearing a jacket. So you can see that underneath her name in the case pic. It's her at the ATM. They keep saying that she was last seen in a dark jacket, but to me, that jacket looks white. Like, it looks very light colored.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I didn't understand that, but everything says she was last seen in a dark jacket. Julie would later say that she didn't realize or recognize this jacket as being one of Maura's, but I mean, people can buy things or borrow things from friends, so I wouldn't put too much into that. So 10 minutes after she was at the ATM, so now we're at 3:50 p.m., she goes into a liquor store and buys $40 worth of liquor. She buys Bailey's, Kahlua, vodka, and a box of wine. She also recycled 79 cans for a whopping $3.95. Yeah. Video footage from the liquor store still shows that she is alone and she is not appearing to be in any distress. She did go to the DMV and got the accident report forms like her dad asked her to. And at 4:37 p.m., she checked her voicemail on her phone, and this is when her phone activity stopped. After 4:37 p.m., she does not use her phone again. At around 7 p.m., Maura crashed her car into a snowbank on Route 112. Route. I don't know how y'all say it. Now, this is a dark road. There's no street lights, but there are some houses nearby. It is sparse, and there are some. One of the residents heard a thud, and when she looked out the window, she saw the car on the road. She called the cops, saying that she could see a man sitting in the car smoking a cigarette. Now, Maura was an anti-smoker, so this didn't make sense to her family when they heard that. This woman's husband, who came and looked out the window as well, says he did not see a man, that he did see that red illumination that his wife was thinking was someone taking a drag off a cigarette, but that was actually a woman in the driver's seat of the car looking at a cell phone.
So there wasn't a man in the car?
No one else ever saw a man in the car. Only a woman, right?
Gotcha.
But then what is she looking at on her cell phone because there's no activity? So she's not calling anybody. She's not Googling anything.
Yeah.
What's she doing on that phone? Anyways, the across the street neighbor saw the car, hazards were flashing, and a woman walking around outside of the car. And then we have Butch. This is when Butch comes along. He is a school bus driver. So he's got his big old bus and he pulls up and he stops on the road next to Maura's car. But his story has changed several times over the years. Things like he would say she was in the car the whole time that he interacted with her, but then he would say she was outside of the car. Or he was inside the bus the whole time, but that he got out of the bus and looked at the car. You know, things like that. In one report, it said that he told her to turn her headlights on so that the other cars could see her in time since she was at a bend in the road. You can also see that on the case pic. Mm-hmm. The bottom left corner is a picture of the road where her car was found. But when they got the vehicle report later, it said that at the time of impact, her high beams were on. So not only were her headlights on, her high beams were on. So that's another weird thing. Either way, he says that she told him not to call the cops because she had already called AAA. which we know she didn't. She was alone. He did verify that. And he saw no blood on her. So she didn't appear to be seriously hurt, but she was cold and shivering. So, and her car wasn't running. So he told her, I live right here, right close by, like literally 2 minutes down the road. He offered to take her to his house to wait for help to get there, but she said no. She was going to wait with the car until help got there. And we know that he did go home, and he called 911 at 7:42 p.m.
Oh, that's good.
Yes, so he did end up calling the cops, even though she told him not to. He would say that police arrived within 10 minutes, according to him, but we now know that it was literally 4 minutes. A sergeant was the first on the scene, and he put that he got there at 7:46 p.m. Maura was nowhere to be seen. In fact, Butch was the last person who was known to have talked to her, ever. And she disappeared and has not been heard from since.
So was snow on the ground?
Oh, yeah. A lot of it.
Okay.
There was a lot of it. We're talking New Hampshire in February. And some reports show that classes had even been canceled that day because there was so much snow. Right?
So, look for tracks.
They did. There were no tracks in any direction.
That's kind of weird.
Yes. Yes. Now, the sergeant would say that when he got there, Maura's car was locked. The windshield was cracked on the driver's side, and the 2 airbags inside the car had deployed. There was a red stain inside the car and the same red stain outside of the car, but it wasn't blood. It was red wine. And then there was a rag stuffed in her tailpipe, which is a whole nother point that's been debated over the years as to why.
Somebody did it to stall the car out.
That's one of the theories.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, absolutely. And now her dad, Fred, would come out later and say that he had told her before to put a rag in the tailpipe if she was worried about getting pulled over because of the smoke that was coming from the car. But that's kind of a dangerous thing to do, to plug your tailpipe.
No, it'll
It'll kill you.
Well, no, it's not.
It can.
It'll stop the car.
It'll stall the car out too.
Stall the car out. Yeah.
Yeah, that's another problem. So mostly when people are theorizing about the tailpipe, it's that somebody did it to disable the car and then they swooped in and got her.
Yeah.
So now inside the car was an empty beer bottle, which was another point of contention because she didn't buy beer that day. So that would either have to be one that was in there already or would have had to come after she had gone to the liquor store. Maybe.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. There was that box of wine that was now damaged because of the impact. And there was a Coke bottle that had a red liquid in it with a strong odor of alcohol. None of the other liquor bottles that she had bought at the liquor store earlier that day were in the car. They were gone. They did find her AAA card, the blank accident report form she picked up at the DMV, gloves that her dad had given her one of the last times he'd seen her, makeup, jewelry, driving directions to Burlington, Vermont, her favorite stuffed animal, and the book Not Without Peril, which is about mountain climbing in the White Mountains. Now, this is a place that the family had vacationed at before, and her dad did like to hike in those mountains.
Yeah.
What they did not find in the car was her wallet, driver's license, debit card, credit cards, that cash that she had gotten out of the ATM, or her flip phone. So back then it was a flip phone. Now, before we start on the investigation, let's take a minute to hear from our sponsor.
Yep. So just hang with us and we'll be right back.
Do you or someone you know live in an apartment community? Are you balling on a budget? Make your money work for you.
Some apartments don't even offer a washer and dryer included in the lease. If you want that live, you need to contact My Laundry Solutions.
They service areas in Oklahoma, Missouri, and Texas. Their newest location is in Fort Worth, with more locations opening in Texas in 2025 and 2026. Check the website for locations near you. There's no credit check. Every contract includes free local service. They professionally install, and your account is available 24/7 online. Go to your leasing office, go to mylaundrysolutions.com, or call 800-535-4411.
Stop wasting your hard-earned money at the laundromat and give My Laundry Solutions a call today.
Yeah.
Yeah, give My Laundry Solutions a call.
Call them up.
Especially if you're like in college, you live in an apartment.
Around Lubbock, Texas, especially.
Yeah, in Texas, Lubbock.
Because they're just opening stores everywhere now.
Yeah.
That's and like the newest.
That's like the best option.
I agree.
For a college student.
I agree.
It's just to do that. And that way, if something happens to it or whatever, all you got to do is get on there and call them. They'll send somebody out to service them.
Yep.
I mean, it's
take care of you.
And it's cheap.
Yeah.
So.
Like what, around $1 a day?
Yeah, it's like $1 a day.
Come on now. You could spend way more than that in coffee.
Mm-hmm.
But, okay. So now we're going to get into the investigation. Police started making their rounds. They're talking to all the people who called 911 and getting their statements and all the other neighbors. When they went to Butch's place, remember the school bus driver, he was sitting outside in his bus doing paperwork. I thought that was kind of weird. Now, the first thing he did was ask where the girl was. Another thing that's weird.
Yeah.
He went back to the scene and helped the sergeant look around the area for Maura. The next day, they notified her family and they issued a bolo for her. They gave one of the sniffer dogs a glove from her car, because remember her dad had just given her gloves, and it tracked a scent. Some reports say it was 100 yards, but Julie, her sister, said it was 100 meters. So either way, it was tracked some distance away to the east of where the car was found and stopped in the middle of the road.
So she got in another car?
That's the theory. Yeah. But there's two things about this one. They're not even sure if Maura had even worn the gloves yet, because her dad had literally just given them to her and they were in the car, not on her when they found them. So they're not sure if she just brought them with her, or if she had been wearing them at some point during the day. Another issue is that if she would have walked through the snow to get to the other road, there would have been tracks through the snow, because it was literally two roads that kind of ran parallel to each other, and she would have walked across a snowy part of grass to get to that other road. Gotcha. So there would have been tracks. But keep in mind that there's no lack of theories in this case, so we're going to talk about a lot of different things. Now, boyfriend Billy was flying into the area. When he landed and was able to turn his phone back on, he had a voicemail. It was a woman crying. Police track that call, and they find out that it had been made using an AT&T calling card. Most of you probably don't know that, but back in the day, long distance calling was a separate thing, and it cost an arm and a leg if you wanted to call somebody. So we had these calling cards, so you could use those. You could buy like a $20 calling card, and you can make your calls. A family member had given Maura 2 AT&T calling cards at Thanksgiving, right? So they know she had some. And Billy was convinced that this call came from Maura. But police tracked it back to the American Red Cross. Tell me how. Yeah. They concluded that this had to be an unrelated call, but Billy didn't know why the Red Cross would be calling him, why they wouldn't leave a voicemail with a message if they were trying to get him, and then why not call back when he didn't answer the phone, and then why is the person on the phone crying? The whole thing is weird. They talked to everyone in the area, it seems, asking if they saw anything that night, asking if they've seen anything since. And a man was questioned 10 days after she disappeared. He didn't have much to offer. But then in April, he came forward and said that he had been driving and saw a woman running in an eastbound direction about 4 to 5 miles east of where Maura's car was found that night. Like literally 30 to 45 minutes after Maura was found to have had that wreck, right? And this woman matched Maura's description. So when they asked him, why did it take you a couple of months for you to report this? And he said, I just had my dates mixed up.
Well, I mean, I think that was, stand out.
A woman in a snowstorm running down the highway.
Yeah.
And then a few days later, the cop's like, hey, have you seen this woman? And you don't put 2 and 2 together.
Exactly.
That stands out. And we'll talk about him a little more in a minute. We're not done with him. One of the neighbors, because there were 4 houses in this area where the car was, they said that after Butch drove off in that bus, that they saw the car's inside lights going off and on several times, and that they saw someone at the trunk of the car. So that made people wonder if that could have been her putting the rag in her tailpipe, like maybe to try to keep it from smoking when the cops got there. But I don't know. That's just another weird thing. And then we'll talk about the 911 call made from Butch's house. So he got home and called 911 at 7:42. The dispatch called them back at 7:43, and they talked to Butch's wife. The dispatch log shows that she said to the dispatcher, quote, "but no idea where the female is." And this is odd because she would have logically had to assume that Maura was at her car. She said that she would wait with her car for help to arrive, so her and Butch had no reason to think that she would be anywhere else. Yet, the first thing that her and Butch say to the police is, "Where's the girl?" And we don't know where she is.
But unless, you said the dispatch asked Butch's wife, which Butch's wife was not.
No, the dispatcher's log said that Butch's wife said, "We don't know where the female is," or whatever that was.
Okay. Well, I mean, Butch's wife wasn't with Butch.
Right.
So she wouldn't know.
But if you come home to me and you say, "Hey, I just saw this lady had a wreck. I stopped and asked if she needed help. She said she'd wait with her car.
Okay.
I'm going to call the cops." You would assume she's still with her car.
And he might not have said she was on Highway 20 eastbound or anything like that. He might not have told her that part. So whenever they asked where was she at, she goes, "I don't have a clue where."
And that could be it too. Maybe maybe that was a directional thing.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, I think it was more of him not giving her all the details.
Okay.
So
I could give you that.
I mean, I'm just.
Hey, spitball. I like it. Okay. Another thing is Butch called 911 at 7:42. The sergeant arrived at the scene at 7:46, according to his report. But another neighbor that was coming home from work says that at 7:37, she stopped at the crash site because she saw Maura's car was in the road facing the wrong direction, and there was a police SUV in front of her car. But the woman didn't see anyone in or around either vehicle, so she just went on home. So now 2 problems here. 1, how would the cop be seen there 9 minutes before he says he got there? That would have been, before Butch had even called 911. But the other neighbors had already called 911. So I'm just saying. But there's also, why did this woman just drive off? Right?
Yeah. So, I mean,
that's my other problem.
Yeah.
Is that you drive up on the scene, you see a wrecked car, you see a cop car in front of it, there's nobody in or around. Are you not worried about the cop's safety? Cops get killed every day. Right?
Oh, yeah.
Why do you not call 911 and tell them to come check on their boy? This is suspicious.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways.
It's all suspicious.
The whole thing is suspicious as hell. There was also a woman who was walking with her dog to a store, and she told the police that there was a red truck with a wooden bed that was acting very suspicious in the area of the crash site. So it was about 10 minutes while they were waiting for the cops to get there, in that 10-minute window they keep talking about.
Mm-hmm.
That's when she saw this truck, and it was creeping, going towards the direction of the crash site. So she brought that up because she'd went in the store and was like, "Hey, did somebody else stop in here?" And they're like, "No, you're the first person we've seen in hours," because it was a snowstorm, right? So that was kind of weird too. Keep that in mind. And this played into another theory that maybe she hitchhiked or was picked up by somebody, right? Suspicious.
Gotcha.
Another weird person involved was Butch's neighbor, Rick. Now, he told police that he was chilling on his couch at the time of the disappearance. But then 2 days later, he told someone else that Maura had come to his door that night, that she was now living with him, and she was a really good cook. So he put her to work, I guess, immediately. Then it came out that he was the person who had seen the woman running down the road that night. Remember the one who didn't remember till a couple of months later?
Yeah.
This was Butch's neighbor. So right after her disappearance, they find out that he traded his car in for a new one. Kind of. His new car was the same year, make, and model of his other car, all the way down to the color.
Mm-hmm.
So this made it look like he got rid of the original car because of something else. Maybe there was something in there that he couldn't get rid of, or that could have been picked up by a sniffer dog.
Or, yeah. Or luminol.
Or luminol. Right? Because why replace your car with the exact same car? Why? It looks suspicious. Then in 2014, Rick, the neighbor, he uploaded a song to YouTube and he titled it Stalker.
Stalker.
It talks about being on a couch one night, a woman coming to the door, and a psychic saying that he had blood on his hands. Now, I say that because there was a couple of psychics that were actually brought in over the years on Maura's case, and one of them said that Rick had blood on his hands. So he's like, I'm going to put that in my video. So I don't know if he was just trying to capitalize on the fact that he looked suspicious or if he was just adding to the suspicion. I don't know what he was doing.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it looks weird that he wrote a song about it. Why are you doing that? Boyfriend Bill, he was also looked into, even though he was over 1,000 miles away in Oklahoma. But there's a few things that made him look not so great. His mom turned over copies of Bill and Maura's phone bills because they used to come to her house. So she gave them copies of the phone bills to the family. And there was stuff missing. And they know it's missing because, you know, the cops are not just going to take what you give them. They're going to subpoena the phone records straight from the carrier. Yeah. And that's what they did. So when you bumped the actual bill up to what Bill's mom gave them, they saw that there was a bunch of shit missing. Like she had taken a bunch of stuff out. Right. Now, that was weird. Bill also had a habit of calling her. So he would call her cell phone. And then if she didn't answer her cell phone, he would immediately call the landline at the dorm. This is something he did every single time he called when she didn't answer the cell, except the day she disappeared. He called her 8 times on her cell, but he did not call the dorm once. Now, some took this to believe that he knew she wasn't at the dorm, that he was just making these phone calls to be like, hey, look, I'm really concerned. I've called her 8 times and she's not answering. And after he heard that she was missing later in the day, he called her cell phone in a 3 to 4 minute phone call. Some say it was so that he could put in her PIN number and manipulate her voice messages, right? Because back then you put in the number and then you can delete messages, you can make new messages, you know, things like that. So they're thinking that that might have been what he was doing, but he could have been leaving a baby come back message. You never know. Mm-hmm. We do know that since then, he has allegedly been accused of SA by several women. He was fired for SAing a coworker in his office from one of his jobs, allegedly. No charges have ever been filed against him. And he also allegedly told a woman a couple of months after Maura's disappearance that he would kill her like he killed Maura. But he said he was just joking. Hilarious.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't make him a killer, though.
No, just saying it doesn't mean that you did it.
Yeah, you know.
People are dumb. Innocent until proven otherwise, right?
Yep.
And there's one more person I want to mention, and then we'll talk about the one they focused on the most. But I need to mention Scott. He was involved in the case very heavily. He represented Maura's family at CrimeCon. He did podcasts and helped the family manage the Facebook page until 2019. 2019 is when the family found out that back in 2012, his computers and hard drives were seized in Virginia for suspicion of CSAM. They were able to see that he visited CSAM sites and stuff about Maura's disappearance on the anniversary of her crash. He was indicted in 2013, but the charges were later dropped. I don't know how. And when the family found out 6 years later, he got dropped. So they're like, we cannot have you helping in this case at all. Even with just an accusation, you've got to go. So good call. And this brings us to Claude and the A-framed house. Now in late 2004, so this is the year Maura went missing, Claude's brother gave Fred a rusty stained knife that belonged to Claude. Claude had a criminal background. He lived less than a mile from the crash site, and he and his girlfriend at the time were acting very strange after Maura's disappearance. The brother told Fred that he believed Claude had something to do with Maura. The family reportedly came out later saying that the brother, now this is Claude's family, came out later saying that the brother was just making stuff up and he was trying to collect the reward money. But the investigation into Claude and his A-frame house did not stop there. Claude told police that he wasn't even in town the day that Maura disappeared. But his ex said not only was he in town, he was at a birthday party.
Well, there's a lot of witnesses at a birthday party.
Exactly. If the police tracked them down and talked to them. Claude also supposedly drove a red truck with a wooden bed. Remember that one?
Mm-hmm.
Similar to the one the woman described as heading towards the crash site that night. Claude worked for a car crushing place, and he did a few other things like concrete work. But he scrapped his own vehicle a few days after his brother gave Fred that knife. His niece said that he was a violent man and basically not above taking advantage of vulnerable women. Speculation around his involvement has included a theory that he could have crushed Maura's body in that crusher machine, which is like one of the worst of the theories. There was also a concrete structure in his yard that no one knew much about. Like, where'd that come from? Why'd you put that there and what's its purpose? Nobody knows. And one of the creepiest things was one of Claude's journal entries after Maura's disappearance. It said, "It's so those 1,100 years are a sense of real moments, one after another, again and again. What has me thinking about this? Now is my moment. Last night, that moment when I saw an angel and made her an angel. The moment plays over and over again and again, and I smoke cigarette after cigarette, but the moment is gone. I know, but I am still high from that moment."
Wow.
Right?
All right.
You saw an angel and turned her into an angel? What? That made him really stick out. But one thing is that he rented that A-framed house, and it was about 3/4 of a mile from the crash site, and he refused to allow police to search it. Actually, most reports are that he wouldn't even answer the door when the police came knocking. And it was definitely more than once that they came knocking. They kept getting tips over the years to check that house. In 2006, Claude moved out, and the new owners or renters or whatever they were that came in were very happy to let the police come in and search that house. So for 2 days, 10 retired police and detectives searched the area. A cadaver dog hit inside the house on day 1. So they brought in 4 more dogs the next day, and they all hit too. Mostly in a closet downstairs. There was a piece of carpet reportedly taken for testing that allegedly ended up with a private investigator who misplaced it. Yeah. But the carpet had reportedly already been changed due to flooding in the house when Claude lived there. So
Sure.
Yeah. Now in 2019, they actually excavated that part of the basement because they believed that something had been buried under there. Because remember, he does concrete work. So all he'd have to do is tear up a portion of the concrete and then bury something and then put more concrete on top, right? Now that was showing up on ground penetrating radar that there was something under there. Now they did dig up the concrete and they dug several feet down into the ground, but they said that they didn't find anything. Claude has since passed away, so they can't question him anymore. But as you can see, they were still looking into his possible involvement in 2019. And we can go on and on and on about the weird people and the weird things in this case. They even looked into Israel Keys, the serial killer, because he was active in the area at the time, but they were able to rule him out. Then about a month after Maura disappeared, 60 some odd miles away in Vermont, was the Breonna Maitland disappearance. And this is another one that I've looked into that we possibly would do an episode on, so we might cover that one day. But her car was literally found backed into a barn. And not like you're trying to hide the tag from the cops backed into the barn. I'm talking like backed into the structure of the barn, like a wreck, which was super odd. But they couldn't link the 2 disappearances together. And you can go down rabbit holes of what people believe happened. That she went into the woods to avoid the police, but died from exposure, which they've pretty much ruled that out because the area that she was in did not have like a dense forest. Like you literally walk a little ways and you're in a housing development. You know what I mean? Like it's not like she would have been stuck out there. There's rumors that she planned to take her own life, that she was up to no good and she was driving in tandem with another driver. And then when she wrecked, she just got out of her car, got in their car and left, right? So after Butch left, her other car was like pulled up and she just hopped in and went.
Yeah.
And then there's also, you know, the rumors that someone picked her up and hurt her, like just a random encounter. So there's so much. And there's a lot out there. There's a lot that's been gone over, and the family has been having to look at pretty much everything. Yeah.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah. So let's talk about what happened just a few weeks ago, because that's where we are on the case. They're still looking into it. Her sister has a TikTok and a podcast and answers a lot of questions. Answers a lot of questions. But just a few weeks ago, this, like I said, was brought back into the light because Stephen Baldwin was arrested for basically being a garbage human, allegedly. And when they put his prints into the system, they got a hit. His fingerprint was found inside Maura's car. Yeah. Everything from here on out is what has been in the news and what's come out of his own mouth. But he allegedly is a pathological liar, so take from it what you will. Nothing has been proven so far. I'm just giving you the details of what's being reported right now. And here's what's out there and unverified. He says that he knew Maura. He met her at West Point, that they were hookup buddies until she started seeing Bill. And he says that he was like a student representative for her when she got in trouble for being passed out on the lawn on campus after drinking all night. So now he's a hero, but his name was Finkelstein until he changed it to Baldwin about 8 months after Maura disappeared.
It's odd for an adult, you know, to change their last name without getting married or adopted.
Right.
Or hell, even at that, I mean, an adult male.
Right.
Changing his name.
Exactly.
I mean,
it's very uncommon.
Come on.
Why'd you do it? Why'd you do it?
Why you hate your name so much?
Why you hate your daddy? But rumor is that his print was found on a CD in her car or a CD case that was in her car. And he says that they used to exchange CDs all the time when they were hooking up. So that doesn't say, I don't know, put him in the car with her that night, smoking a cigarette in the passenger seat. No. But he left West Point in December of 2001. She left shortly after in January of 2002. So that print, if on a CD, would have had to been hanging out in that car for a couple of years.
Yeah.
Without getting smudged or damaged or destroyed in any way. Odd, right? Andy says, who's Andy?
Who is Andy? Yeah.
And he, see, I use this talk to text feature and it says Andy, and he says that he had never been to UMass and he's never even been to New Hampshire. So
if he didn't get arrested for Maura's case, what did he get arrested for?
What made him a garbage human?
Yeah.
Let me tell you. From what I saw, he was a humane agent for Union County, Ohio in 2012. He would investigate animal cruelty cases, and he was the founder of ACT, which is the Animal Cruelty Task Force. He was a board member for the Logan County Humane Society and the former director of the Top of Ohio Pet Shelter. His business, ACT, would take dogs who maybe, I don't know, bit the mailman or something, and they were going to have to be put down. So he would take them, train them, and then rehome them, right?
Okay.
For just minor offenses. But people started noticing that the dogs were disappearing. Come to find out, allegedly, when a dog in his care reached their funding limit and he wasn't getting paid for them anymore, he was euthanizing them.
Yeah.
To make room for more money. More dogs to rehabilitate. Right. So supposedly they know of at least 18 dogs that he's done this to. So that's what makes him a garbage human.
Yeah.
And this is where we are. It's literally just happened a couple of weeks ago. And it was a bit of a shock to be like flipping through the news and stuff. And then all of a sudden you see Maura's case after so long.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, somebody else is covering it. No, this was the news. And I was like, holy cow. So I got to looking into it. And this is what I found out. Now, sadly, Fred, her dad, has passed away. He passed away recently. So he's not here for it if this does pan out to be anything. Her mom has already passed away. And so did her sister, Kathleen, I believe. But Julie and the remaining siblings are still fighting for answers. And hopefully they can get some kind of resolution after all this time. Right?
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, they need some kind of answers.
It's just so weird.
How long has this been?
21 years.
Oof.
Yeah, this happened in 2004.
Yeah, they need some kind of answers.
I mean, like I said, her sister is very active on TikTok now, and she has the podcast, and she answers every question. You type out a question, she will make a video and answer it. Like, she's very open about all the things in this case. I didn't get to watch them all because there's a lot. But yeah, it's very, they're still fighting every day. Every day.
They should.
And they will. Now, if you like our content, make sure you like, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you know when a new episode drops. We also have Cash App at $MWTM pod.
And we also have Buy Me a Coffee at buymeacoffee.com/MWTM. And as always, tell your friends.
Tell them. They deserve to know.
That's the end of this one. And if you guys like our content, make sure you guys
do all the things.
Like, share, subscribe, tell your friends. And tell them to tell their friends.
Yeah.
We need subscribers. That's what we're looking for. We're looking for subscribers.
Yes, sir.
More than anything.
Spreading the word. The more people that hear it, the better chances are some of these cases might actually get solved.
More subscribers means more ears listening to what the stories are.
That's
and
right.
Hopefully one of these days it'll be like, hey, I know something.
Exactly.
So until next time, guys, if I can hit this button. There we go. So nice.
Oh.
So until next time, we will catch, we'll catch you on the next one.
Yeah. Bye.